The highly anticipated Berachain mainnet launched on February 6th with a lot of hype and a lot of excitement. And in today's video, I'm going to walk you through how proof of liquidity works, what BeaconKit is. We're going to look into Bera tokenomics and also the vast Berachain ecosystem, as well as look into the team and project history. Berachain launched after years in development and not only managed to build a strong brand, a strong culture for their core community and subcultures like Bera Baddies and much more, but also they managed to attract billions in liquidity in their pre-deposit campaigns, the vast majority through third-party providers such as Veda, EtherFi, Infrared, Kodiak, Lombard, PumpBTC, and many, many more. And in fact, this campaign is also incentivized with 0.9% of the Bera supply rewarded for major pools and 1.1% for third-party or hybrid pools. But not only did they manage to attract billions in liquidity, but they also raised a shit ton of money. They raised $142 million across various rounds, and we're going to look into the exact tokenomics, the investor list, and much more in this video as well. But let's first look into the project. The two main innovations that Berachain brings is number one, BeaconKit. BeaconKit is a modular consensus layer for Ethereum-based blockchains that enables an identical EVM to be built and be fully compatible with the Berachain mainnet. And if you watch my Berachain videos from 2 years ago, you probably remember that I said Berachain is actually built on the Cosmos SDK. And that was actually true at that time, because at that time, Polaris, which was their framework that now evolved into BeaconKit, was built on the Cosmos SDK. However, to this day, BeaconKit still leverages the core consensus algorithm of the Cosmos ecosystem, which was previously called Tendermint and is now called Comet BFT. And the main advantages for BeaconKit are that it is much, much faster and enables single slot finality compared to Ethereum's 13 minutes and just executes block times much, much faster. The second and actually main innovation for Berachain is proof of liquidity, which is a new form on how to synergize validators, users, and liquidity incentives to incentivize and build out the application layer on Berachain. This is natively integrated, and we're going to look into step by step how this looks like from a user's perspective, a project's perspective, and also a validator's perspective. But first, I want to introduce you to the core Berachain team. It's a team actually more than 60 people, but those are the main guys. First, we have Bera, who is the co-founder and CTO at Berachain, previously worked at Apple, and like many of the Berachain core team, is based out of Toronto, Canada. Yogi Bera, head of ecosystem at Berachain. Bera MVP, who is responsible for business development. Then you have Cami from Medellin, Colombia. Big shout out, Parceros. She's doing developer relationships and onboarding. Then you have the Bera, and of course, the main man, co-founder and CEO, Smokey the Bera, who's also been here on this YouTube channel sometime in December 2023. And there's also Papa Bear, who alongside Smokey and Dev Bear is actually also the founding member of Bong Bears, which is the original NFT collection that basically started it all. And the core Berachain team released this video that also gives a little bit more context on the Berachain origin story.
Сегодня у нас на обзоре блокчейн Berachain.
It started off as an NFT collection with Bong Bears. Proof of liquidity. 420.69 million.
Looking closer into proof of liquidity, which really is the core innovation of Berachain. Winnie from my team at Stakecito actually made this amazing graphics here that really breaks it down very, very simply on how it works, because I know it can be complex and confusing if you're not spending some time to really understand it, but in the next minute or two, I want to change this. So on the one hand, you have validators, right? With Stakecito, we're one of the validators. On the other hand, you have a user that actually just wants to earn rewards, right? So there's two ways from two angles. Now, first off, it is very, very important to understand that Berachain has a two-token model. You have the Bera token and you have the BGT token. Bera is the token that is needed to activate a validator. So we at Stakecito, we need Bera to start and run our validator, right? That's the validator staking token. So step number one, validator stakes Bera to activate your validator. Step two is based on how much Bera we are staking, the likelihood for us to propose a block is higher, right? So we stake Bera and then we propose blocks. And the block rewards in Berachain actually twofold, and both of which are denominated in BGT. The first one is the base reward in BGT that goes to us, the validator. And the second reward is basically an emission that we as validators decide where we direct this to which reward vault as an incentive to bootstrap and grow liquidity. There will be an incentives marketplace in which applications can whitelist their liquidity pools to be eligible for receiving BGT incentives so that validators like us can direct their BGT emissions to that pool as an incentive for that application. So the TLDR for us as validators is we stake Bera, we get BGT in rewards, and then also we direct our BGT emissions to so-called reward pools, which is then used as an incentive to bootstrap and grow liquidity. The TLDR for applications and protocols is that they have to create liquidity pools, which is a permissionless process, but in order to become eligible for receiving BGT emissions, they have to go through a governance process, and once approved, validators can direct their BGT emissions to that reward pool. For users, instead of just holding Bera or BGT and stake that to a validator like you're probably familiar with in the Cosmos ecosystem, the only way that you can earn BGT, which is also the only way to get BGT because it's a non-transferable token, is that you provide liquidity in pools, reward pools. So providing your liquidity, you're getting a received token, which you then stake. And once you stake that token, then you are starting to earn BGT rewards. This BGT can then be delegated to a validator, which is not called staking, but is actually called a boost. And the more you delegate in BGT to your validator, the more this validator will have in emissions that he can then use to direct to those reward pools. And that promises to bring this POL flywheel into motion, in which users provide liquidity, stake the LP token, earn BGT, delegate that BGT to validators. And by delegating your BGT, you're also making yourself eligible to earn fees and incentives from the application, which then deepens liquidity and incentives. Users scale and fees increase, which means users want more BGT because BGT eventually generates yield, and delegating BGT generates more yield, which brings also more incentives for validators, which then also brings more emissions to the reward pools, which then also incentivize projects more to basically compete and bribe for liquidity. Now, enough about POL and BeaconKit. Now let's look into some numbers and the token. They basically had two main funding rounds, the Series A in April of 2023, where they raised $42 million at a $420.69 million valuation. That's also the round where I invested with Cito Ventures. There was a subsequent round in April of 2024, the Series B at an undisclosed valuation. I think it was $1 billion or 1.5 billion FTV that raised $100 million. You can see a full list of disclosed investors here on cryptorank.io. You can also see some familiar faces, maybe here Sandeep Narwal, the co-founder of Polygon. We also have Zaki Manian, Yatsio from Animoca Brands, Mustafa, co-founder of Celestia. Looking closer into Berachain tokenomics, the ticker is Bera. Total supply genesis 500 million, of which there is a 10% annual inflation via BGT emissions, which is all subject to governance. The core utility of Bera is that it serves as a native gas and staking token. Remember, staking in context of for validators to activate their validator node, while BGT is there to facilitate governance and also economic incentives. BGT is a rewards token and also can be used to earn BGT by delegating it to a validator and boost their emissions. Probably the most important thing about BGT to note here is that BGT can be burned one-to-one for Bera, which is a one-way function, and Bera cannot be converted back into BGT. BGT rewards claim, governance activities, and also the burning for Bera tokens can all be done on the Bera hub. Here's a diagram of their initial token distribution, which obviously caused a lot of backlash because over a third went to investors, which to be honest is no surprise considering how much money they raised. 15.8% went to an airdrop, which also got a lot of people really mad because the airdrop was not very rewarding for testnet users. But I also want to say at this point that the Berachain testnet has probably been the most overfarmed testnet in crypto. And I think if you go in the mindset to farm a testnet just to get an airdrop, which is what hundreds of thousands of people have been doing and automating and spamming and botting, then I think it's very tough. What it did try to do, and you can argue about whether or not this was achieved or not, is to reward active users, real people, by also pegging it to their Kaito score, their YAP score, and contributions, mentions, and socials, and just overall support. Here is the token release schedule, which is very common in crypto. For the first year after TGE, there's a very flat emission schedule or distribution schedule. And then after the first year cliff is when a lot of tokens start unlocking. Now we talked about Bera and BGT. Let's talk about Honey, which is their native stablecoin. Honey can be minted in the Honey factory with a variety of other stable assets such as USDC, and the fees from the minting and redeeming of Honey are then also distributed to BGT holders. From my understanding, in the beginning at least, Honey is only minted and backed basically by other stable assets, but eventually there will also be governance proposals in the Honey factory to adjust that and also adjust the minting parameters and collateralized assets. Now let's look into the Berachain ecosystem, some highlighted applications from different verticals, and also the heart and soul of Berachain for users at least, which is the Bera hub. On the Bera hub, you can swap tokens on their natively integrated DEX, which was also built by the Berachain team called Bera Swap. You can view pools and create your own pool right there. And you can also deposit your receipt tokens to start earning those BGT rewards. And also you can boost BGT to validators and support them in that way, while also increasing and accelerating the POL flywheel. On ecosystem.berachain.com, you can see a list of projects that are active in the Berachain ecosystem. They also have an incubator program where they support projects building on Berachain. Some of these spotlight projects here on Berachain are actually also part of the Build a Bera program. You have Dolomite, for example, which is a lending protocol, Honeychat, which is a social layer. Then you have Infrared, which is a liquid staking platform, Ooga Booga for native liquidity aggregation, or Origami, which is also a DeFi project. You can see countless projects listed here on the Berachain website. Some projects maybe to check out on Twitter are Kodiak, which is a native liquidity platform also incubated by Build a Bera. Ooga Booga, we talked about it, liquidity aggregator on Berachain. Then you have Shogun, which is an intent-based cross-chain DEX. At least that's how they started. I think they also went through some iterations, but definitely something for you to check out. Then you have Beratrax, which is also a DeFi project. Gummy for leverage trading and a money market. Concrete, which was also partners of their pre-deposit campaign that also got investment by Polychain and Vanek. Beraborrow, Mad Honey, Infrared for liquid staking. Ramen Finance, which is their token launchpad, which could probably also be interesting to find early gems in the Berachain ecosystem. They also have their own NFT collection called Hungry Bera. Then you have the Honey Jar, which is also the team behind Henlo, which is the official meme coin in Berachain that also gave out an airdrop to Bad Kids, Celestine Sloth, Mad Scientist, and more NFT collections. Then probably the most famous one, Puffpaw, which is a vape to earn and quit nicotine project on Berachain that raised a couple $1 million. Bera TV, which is an AI generated television show. Beratone, which is an online multiplayer game. Berabucks, also in the gaming ecosystem. And of course, our beloved Stride, which is home to the Cosmos ecosystem that also launched liquid staking for BGT. So you can leverage your BGT with stBGT that is also incentivized in USDC. So there are USDC and not STRD rewards for liquid staking your BGT with Stride. Now finally, here's my conclusion, outlook, and also comments on the Berachain price action since the token dropped. The token dropped at around $6 or $7, then shot up to $13, $14, and is now, as I'm recording this video, hovering at around $5.80, which, to be honest, in my view, for a chain of that size, of that magnitude, with that story, with that hype, with that novelty around POL and Beacon Kit, is quite cheap in my opinion, at least, right? I'm not saying this is a clear buy, but I think it might make sense if you believe in the technology, if you believe in POL, obviously, you have to think that POL is going to work. Then I think this valuation at least is not overpriced. I think the biggest challenge for Berachain really is going to be if they can build out that Bera ecosystem and attract quality applications, some of which also would go viral and capture mindshare in a similar way how Pump.Fund did it for Solana in a very, very competitive altcoin market that we are in right now, with also the same networks, the injectives, the eclipses, and also Monad that is coming up, all these Ethereum L2s, Solana itself, right? I think the tide obviously is much, much higher. It is much, much more competitive, and it will be also interesting how Bera will come out of the honeymoon phase, because right now Berachain is in the honeymoon phase. They just launched, everything is amazing. The price action could be better, of course, but I think what will be interesting to see is how the core team especially will come out of this phase, right? How many people will leave and build out their own projects, right? Which is very, very natural. But also I think how aligned the core Berachain team is, how aligned core investors are, early contributors, and also early builders in the Berachain ecosystem. That is yet to be seen. And I think we just have to wait for this redistribution cycle to kick in over the next 12 months. I think Berachain will have a lot of hype and also will do well in this bull run. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm invested. I've been covering Berachain for the past 2 years. I've been knowing Smokey. I had a lot of calls with him. I think he's one of the smartest, most committed, and actually has a deep, deep understanding of the market, of communities, of brand, and all these kind of things, which I think makes him a great leader for the Berachain project. Anyways, that's my personal thoughts. I'm not sure where this is going. I think it can reach a 30, 50, maybe even $100 billion FDV if there's a true alt season, which means Bitcoin is probably going to be at 200, 300, 400K. Ethereum will go to 10, 15K. I think in that scenario, then I think Berachain can reach 100 billion FDV, which also means something like Solana would probably trade at $1,000 and more. Anyways, those are my comments. Those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. Subscribe to the channel if you want more of those project reviews. I'll see you very soon here on Cryptocito. Until then, stay safe and be good.